Empathic concern. Empathic concern is identifying with and understanding what a person in need is feeling and experiencing with the intention to help the person. This is an other-oriented or unselfish motive. When we have empathic concern, we see others in distress and we're able to imagine what they must be experiencing, taking on an empathic state of sympathy or compassion. The process is often fast and intuitive, split-second impulsive empathy. When we are empathically motivated, we have the desire to help a person address their need and enhance their personal welfare, even at our own expense. Batson and colleagues in 1983 and 86 did research that revealed people who experience empathic distress or high empathy would be more likely to volunteer to take on physical distress for another person and exhibit more altruistic behavior, even when no one would know about their altruistic behavior. In the 1983 study, Batson and colleagues told participants that they would be interacting with another person of the same sex who was actually a Confederate and in on the research, that had been asked to recall numbers and who would be shocked for mistakes. One set of participants could leave after witnessing at least 2 shocks, and the others were told that they had to witness all 10 shocks. After 2 trials, the Confederate was made to look pale and express being uncomfortable and asked for water. At this time, participants were asked how they felt in order to separate them into an egoistic distress group or an empathic concern group. Then they were asked if they'd be willing to take shocks on behalf of the Confederate. Those labeled as egoistic took few shocks, but the empathic concern group volunteered to take more even when they could leave the study. So empathically concerned individuals are willing to help others even when it risks their own well-being. Of course, this study has some flaws because selection bias could have attracted more empathic volunteers to begin with. So in 1986, Batson and friends were at it again. This time, participants were in a cubicle next to another Confederate named Janet, who wrote notes to them, and they were asked to try to form an accurate impression of Janet. One set of participants were told to be objective and focus on the facts. The others were told to vividly imagine how Janet felt. The 2 notes that Janet shared with the participants, one said that she was feeling out of place in her new home at the university. And the second one said she needed some friends and wanted to know if they might be willing to hang out. Both groups were asked to say how much time they would be willing to spend with Janet. In the low social evaluation group, where no one would be watching, they received the envelopes that were sealed with the notes inside, and they were the only ones to read it, and they were told that no one would know their response. In the other group, the experimenter and the participant both read the notes, and the experimenter would know what their response was to hanging out with Janet. People who were high empathy, vivid imaginers, volunteered to spend more time with Janet, even when no one would know. Do it for free. Volunteering. What is volunteerism? Non-monetary assistance for helping people with no expectation of compensation. Empathic concern makes us more likely to volunteer and endure suffering to help others because it gives us a sense of purpose. People who are of service to others tend to live longer, and our upbringing tends to prime us to be altruistic and volunteer. People who have risked their lives for others were interviewed by Oliner and Oliner in 1988, and they described growing up in families where altruism was a household principle. Or perhaps we're just wired to care. Studies of toddlers who watched an adult struggle to do tasks such as pick up a drop pen or open a cabinet found that 40 to 50% of toddlers helped, although no need was expressed by the adult. Researchers have found that the vagus nerve is activated when we feel empathic concern or compassion. This nerve is responsible for vocal communication, eye contact, slowing of the stress response, and is thought to promote social connection. In short, helping others makes us feel good. Here is a picture of local Sacramento chefs preparing and serving hundreds of meals just recently during the coronavirus pandemic. What determines altruism? The presence of others has a big effect. Bystander intervention, help given by a witness to someone in need, is less likely when other people are around because of diffusion of responsibility. Here's a picture of people peeping out the window when someone is in danger crying out for help. Hashtag, will anyone help? This is diffusion of responsibility, the reduced sense of urgency to help someone in an emergency because it is assumed that others present will help. What determines our altruism? Let's look some more. This picture has two boys on the grass. Is it bullying or horseplay? Do you say anything? Victim characteristics. People are more likely to help in situations that are clear and the need for help is unambiguous. We're more likely to help others that are like ourselves. Same race, ethnicity, religion, class, etc. Pluralistic ignorance is when bystanders do nothing to help if they see that no one else is responding because they're not sure if it's an emergency happening, because our social norms tell us, stay calm, don't overreact. This is why victims who cry out and make their distress clearly known are more likely to get help than those who are silent. What role does culture have in altruism? Social class plays a role. Those who are wealthy tend to give less than people of lower class. Poor people give more because they tend to be more empathically in tune with the suffering of others. You may have heard about billionaires and wealthy people giving away their wealth to philanthropic causes. You know, we've got Warren Beatty who has pledged to give away all of his money before he dies. So we think that they probably give more, but the reality is that wealthy people on average only donate 2 to 3% of their income, while people of lower class means tend to give 4 to 5% of their income. Poorer people tend to be more empathically in tune with others and help out in taxing situations. Religion and ethics increases levels of altruism because of the universal themes of honor, compassion, and kindness, and it may also have something to do with the sense of being watched. Geographic region also plays a role in pro-social behavior. People from rural settings express more empathic concern. This has been attributed to sensory overstimulation and increased likelihood of diffusion of responsibility in densely populated urban areas as compared to rural areas. It could also be because smaller towns mean more people are connected and they will know what you're doing or not doing. The evolution and altruism. What do they have to do with each other? Kin selection. This is an evolutionary perspective of altruism that explains it as a strategy that favors the reproductive success of one's own genetic relatives, even at a cost of one's own survival or reproduction. People are more likely to help those with whom they share more of their genes, siblings over first cousins over second, and so on. Reciprocity. Reciprocal altruism is the act of helping people with the expectation that the favor will be returned at some point in the future. Cooperation among non-kin increases the chances of survival and reproduction for all parties and reduces the likelihood of conflict over resource scarcity. So sharing means we don't have to fight over what's available. Helping relatives to survive ensures that our genes get passed on to future generations, and people feel rewarded by altruism, and so they're more inclined to reciprocate when others have given to us. So if you give, I'll give.